Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 415. Today is Saturday, June 4th, 2022, and I'm glad you could join me today. Stretch. Stretch. I probably just need to have a nice long session with a lacrosse ball. I think that would feel really good, but whatever, be like a little bit stiff. So, welcome. It is, I don't know, where would it be? It's been I woke up earlier than I wanted to. It was like, some little baby was ready to be awake. And then we ended up going on a walk much earlier than usual. So morning nap got taken care of during that. And then what would it be? And then it was like started like the normal the normal Saturday activities after that. So it's just interesting to see how that stuff works out. As you do. But I did end up advancing all of my projects last night, which was very exciting. So, not to, or would it be the case where I didn't get like a good proper advance on the shawl, because that's the case where I try to get it so that I finish off a bead row before I put it down, and that was not, or it'd be the case where I think what ends up happening is I get to the bead row, then maybe I do the bead row, and then I get to the next bead row. That's more typical. But still holding steady on that one with 14 repeats of the body chart or whatever, based on my calculations, 14 repeats of the body chart are needed. This means that I'm at 22%. So, like, yeah, it's not there yet, but we're getting better. That's for sure. And it may be the case where like the differential yarn isn't too crazy. And I took a picture of it before I started podcasting so that I can do a nice little work in progress roundup when I do my Instagram post today. I would say one downside to having a post you make every week is that it tends to be they don't do as much in between. So not quite sure. We'll have to think about that one, but I did make a little bit of progress on this. Are the odds bad that I'll finish this project this summer? Perhaps. So this is Shea Arizarde. I'm knitting it out of Yarn Place Gentle, which I ended up dyeing as an ombre. And the designer is Anna Victoria. So then I have my cobalt beads. Can we see the cobalt beads this week? Maybe a little bit. So I feel like they pop reasonably well, especially now that I'm in a more green section of the yarn. And there's quite a bit more of green section of yarn left to go. I was like, we'll make it back to teal, but not for a bit. And it should be a more gentle ombre on the flip side, so that should be good. And it should be the case where pretty soon I'll be breaking into my third tube of beads. At which point I may need to start thinking about how I want to or figuring out how many beads I need in order to finish the shawl, since I am going off pattern. So what you can't quite see is this giant mess that's following me around. So this is my swatch that I dropped and dragged on the ground for a little while during my walk today. So I may need to figure out a way of tidying this all up again so that it looks good. But this is my water bearer sweater, which is a Jacqueline Cieslak design. That's based on the Elizabeth Daughtry top-down set-and sleeve method with brioche, or whatever. It has a brioche collar detail, and I added more brioche on the back of it, which may be making it go a bit more slowly, but whatever. So last I checked, I had made it to the 2/3 point, so that is good. Maybe what's unclear, or would it be? It'd be the case where now we're into the time period in which I am a little bit worried about whether or not there's going to be an adequate amount of body. I did decide to go with the tighter gauge, which means that my yarn is not going to go as far. But it is worth noting that the skeins of yarn were pretty generous, so I almost, like, I bought 5 skeins, but I had 585 grams of yarn. So they were generous skeins. So perhaps I shouldn't be that worried. And I'm also neglecting to put a progress keeper in to just, for sanity's sake, keep track of how far I'm getting on these things. But I know, where would it be? I know I've gone, like, I have gotten to the point where it does actually, it's now past my bust, so it's just a matter of knitting the pattern until it is far enough. It was the case where I ended up, what would it be? I ended up slanting it a little bit, because it didn't seem like I was at the halfway point when I added in the new ball of yarn, but we'll get it all figured out. But yeah, no, it's a little bit of a mess right now. But I don't think I made any major errors this week, and a lot of that just has to do with me being, like, more mindful about when I'm working on it and what I should be doing when I'm working on it. As you do. I am slightly amused that the brioche is occasionally too spicy. It was definitely the right project at the time. That is for sure. So, yeah. I feel like I need to maybe do a little bit of zhuzhing, but it shouldn't be too terrible. But yeah, so my swatch is not looking super good after getting dragged, which is unfortunate. Hopefully it's not too bad off, but we've got all sorts of fun stuff hanging out here. We'll see what happens. I'd rather not have to cut yarn out of it. But yeah, no, that wasn't the brightest move. But I don't know, I guess we'll guess I'll just keep an eye on it and make sure that it is okay. And maybe it's the case where it will need a pass with the gleaner. But what would it be? It'd be the case where Super Wash Merino is not the toughest, hardiest yarn, but I think I'd be hard pressed to find any yarn that could take that abuse and still look good. But this has definitely gotten most of my knitting attention this week. For whatever reason, there were definitely some times where I would have been a more charitable person if I had brought my knitting along to some of my work meetings, but whatever. That's a lesson learned that I will need to apply for this next week, and that is fine. So this week was a short week, but I did make my way back to work, whatever, in the bedroom. But on Tuesday, I'm actually going to go into the office for the first time since I started my job, so who knows? Well, I suppose before I commit to going, I should verify that I actually have access to the place. I'm pretty sure I can get into where my desk nominally is, but I also need to have access to the nursing mother's pumping room, and so that was why I did not go in. I knew my first day back was not going to be super productive, so that was the case where I was taking care of admin stuff, like making sure I could access the nursing mother's pumping room and other such things. But I would also say it was just interesting because, what would it be? Like, it's just a very different cadence for the day. So even though I was home, I still had to carve out time in my day in order to pump. So that was a whole different thing for sure. But whatever, we'll get used to it. It may be the case where I need to explicitly block out periods of time to do it, because sometimes I'll get like really into the thing I'm doing and then realize I don't have time to pump before I need to do something. So that is the conundrum there. So I'll have to learn. The other thing going on was that I did not prepare sufficiently. So there was not as good a milk supply in order for me to be gone for 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever. So that was also another complication that needed to be worked out. So hopefully we're in a better place now. Part of that was also beginning to create a stash for when I go to the Super Summer Knit Together. So what it be? So there's been much more time spent with my little pumping machine. And that may end up being actually really great knitting time in the grand scheme of things. I guess it just sort of depends. All right, shake. So, this is definitely my knitting project closest to completion. It may be getting to be too big. It may be getting to be too big for a walk around project. I may end up switching what bag this is in now. So I have been keeping it in this knot bag, but it's starting to get to the point where it's getting to be a bit unwieldy. So I may swap this into a more sweater size bag. It won't have the convenience of the knot, but it may have the convenience of if I decide to pick up something on a walk or something like that, I'll actually have a place to put it. As you do. But I feel like there's still quite a lot of body left to be knit at this point. So I am now in the motor along phase of the project. So whatever I've been doing, I want to keep on doing it. Which is fine. It's just like, okay. Yeah, I'm thinking now, knowing what, or would it be the case where knowing what I know now, it would have made a lot more sense if the I-cord had been worked as a part, worked along the way. But that was something that we ended up needing to figure out in the course of things. Still really happy with the fit, how everything's coming together. I think I'm going to leave the sleeves as is, not do it or whatever. They might be different, but I think the difference is subtle enough it's not going to be a big deal. So that means that I can start, or pretty soon I'll be able to integrate the yarn that I had used for the sleeves into the body. And hopefully I can work through this swatch yarn pretty quickly. So that was the thing, right? Is that my second ball of yarn was the yarn that I ended up swatching in. And so it was the swatch that ended up getting a little dog-eared today. But, I don't know, it's pretty cool looking. Got sleeves. I tried it on last week. It's not too much different than what it was then. So I think it just needs to get upgraded to a bit bigger bag, and that will decrease the issues that I face, I believe. And it's sort of the case where I need to always end this one in the middle of the row based on how I'm dealing with the needles, so there's that. So, outlook unclear on what's going to happen with the yarn I'm working on right now, but things are coming along. Let's see. So it doesn't irritate. It feels it feels a little bit like progress on the knitting front has been slow. I don't know if this is the case where part of this just has to do with like what proportion of time I was spending knitting while on walks. So it'll be interesting to see how that works through. I will say that there was a bit less knitting in the evening time because I was just like, oh, so tired. There was one night where I sat down and like was getting ready to craft, and then was like started the podcast and I'm like, nope. Turned the podcast off and went to bed. So I don't know if that's going to end up holding, because what would it be? Because if I do end up needing to do the bus commute, I will need to be waking up earlier in order to catch the bus. So what we have going on here is I have pinned in the zipper. So this is my first baby surprise jacket. My second baby surprise jacket, I think, is actually in the bedroom right now because I just popped it on Mr. Daniel. But we're definitely getting there. So after I finish, I think I need to get like one more round of pins in between here, and then I can start sewing the zipper on. And then I can do a little bit of trimming to get the top of this off. I think we could, and then I can, if I'm happy with this method, do that on the other one. So, because I finished the thank you cards. What would it be? There's still some addresses that we're collecting, but it's over. We got them all written. So that's sort of low key in the background. I think it is the case where what would it be? I think like sewing in zippers is definitely on the list of things that I want to do in the daytime. Like I'm definitely sewing curious, but I'm also sewing procrastinating, so there's that. I have to accept both parts of it, I suppose. But like getting this far, I feel like is a really big step for me. And then after I sew in the zipper, there's just like one thing left on the to-do list, so I don't think it's too terrible that or too terrible in terms of progress. And then I don't know if I need to take that sheet of paper and write down the to-do list for the Dear Sleep Level 1. I'd be like, so I know there's some things you really want to do with your time off, but here's some things that we need done. And it definitely seems like the fit of the baby surprise jacket at this point is the sleeves are the perfect length right now, and the body is massive. So I'm inclined to believe that the sweater will be useful for a long time in terms of body size, and maybe slightly comical in the sleeve length department, but I'm just that's just the nature of that shape. So we're just gonna live with it. It was the first time that I'd actually put it on Mr. Daniel, so that was exciting. Okay. On the spinning front, I've made pretty good progress on the Voyager half of my project. So the Voyager, so this has the blurple merino angora fiber, and then the Voyager battens that I blended together on my drum carder, which makes for a pretty blue, or it's a fairly blue single. There are inclusions of like silk and thread in the bat, and so I'm trying to integrate that reasonably well into the single. It's spinning up fine. My plan is to 4-ply. So I have what it be. So I ended up doing quite a few pulls of it this week because I'm ready for the project to be done. So after I've already finished that ball. So I have 4 more of these remaining, and then I have the finished guy here. So this one, so you can see the bright colored pops are like the silk. The blurple is not really coming through super great as is typical. And because it was dyed with red number 3, it's not color fast. So the fact that this project's been taking a while means it's a moving target. Whatever the finished yarn is going to be will be different than what it looks like now. There's like some settling time. But when it comes to the spindle part of the project, I did end up getting a little bit of forward progress here. So I started a new ball last night. I'm not super duper far into it. I haven't been super duper careful winding it on either. Probably would get done faster if I didn't spend as much time faffing around with making a beautiful looking cop. So like a beautiful looking cop is nice, but if it's at the cost of actually getting it done, do we really want that? So spinning this on my Jenkins Lurk, it can take about an ounce and not much more before it starts spinning weird. But I'm inclined to believe I'm not going to manage to get a full ounce on this cop, because as soon as I finish the Voyager ones, these are the Gandalf ones. The Gandalf one had gray pullover silk with multicolored sari and silk inclusions, and then the same purple bat that I dyed and combined together. But there's just way more little balls in here. So what would it be? I definitely have quite a few more. I don't think I have them wildly different sizes, but whatever. So what's likely going to go down is I don't know if I'll still keep doing, or if I'll end up doing a tandem thing, but there's going to be a bobbin of this, because I will get it on the wheel to finish it. Because I think that'll help me decide what goal I want to sign up for Stash Dash, based on the yardage of that particular project. That's sort of where I'm feeling right now. And then I have plans for the yarn held tripled hat that needs to get started at some point, and then I'll have to figure out what else I want to do exactly. So I don't know if that'll mean that I end up casting on the hat, because that'll be a good on-the-go project. Seems plausible. My desire to knit pullovers is low for as long as I can get spit up upon by a baby. But yeah, so definitely making some good forward progress on the spinning. Not letting myself be too worried about it. Sort of the case where mindset wise it'd be like, okay, this has been going on for about a year now. It's time to let it go. Time to get it to the done. So yeah, so that's sort of where I'm at right now. feel, yeah, I don't know whether or not I spent more time spinning or knitting this week, but it was a lot of progress on the wheel, a little bit on the spindle, and then mostly the sweater knitting. As you do. But it's sort of the case right now where it's like, okay, this is a race. We are waiting to see what one of my works in progress is actually gonna make it across the finish line. And whatever. So that's sort of where my mindset is right now. Is like, okay, is it going to be the spinning project or the knitting project that's going to make it? And I think just based on unwieldliness, I will end up casting on something new when I finish the sweater. Because the lace shawl is not a project for all situations. Though I suppose, what would it be? The knitting time will be some of it. But I guess I hadn't thought about the fact that at least in this time frame, I would still have a decent amount of not working time, and where some of that is spent keeping the tiny human alive. I have another adult around in order to help too, and so I think that freed up more time than I thought I would. I am not solely responsible during the daylight hours, so that's good. But yeah, so we'll see how everything comes together. But I'm interested to see what ends up getting wrapped up. I can't predict. It's between one of two things, but I'm not sure which one's gonna do it. So let's see. At least recording schedule wise, should be good for next week. There will be a little bit of disruption to the recording schedule. I'm like pulling up the calendar. Yeah. So whatever, not too crazy. Yeah. So should be good to go next week, but the week after will be a little bit weird. I don't know if I'll end up slotting in something in the middle of the week or if I'll just skip. It's the same number of episodes. But it does sort of mean that might need to show my spouse to be like, if we wanted to do something, not a lot of time left. But I am excited because I get to go on like pretty decent sized trip with taking no vacation at all, so that is lovely. I'm really glad that ended up working out. And so that means that I can spend all of the vacation time that I've accumulated on the Super Summer Knit Together, which is nice. And then we'll spend quite furiously the rest of the summer accumulating vacation time for the extra. So should be fun. I don't know. It may turn out that I don't have enough and I'll need to do something else, but we'll figure something. It shouldn't be. Whatever. That's the sad thing about starting a new job is like the time. What did we? My previous job had unlimited vacation. The job before that, I'd finally made it to 3 weeks a year. Luckily, this job, they get you to 3 weeks a year in a more humane time. It's 2 years instead of 5. And rest assured, I use my vacation time. So, not too crazy there. So, with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So, take care, guys. Bye-bye.